Hey legend, hope you're well. I wanted to create this quick video for you to share with you exactly how my client went from inconsistent $2,000 months in her business to consistent $10,000 months so that you know what's really possible for you when you create an aligned marketing strategy that you go all in on. Now, let's call my client Emily. Emily's starting point, because I really believe context is key, is her mindset was pretty good. At times, she of course had fear and doubt, just like all of us experience from time to time, where she was, having some fear about whether she was good enough, whether she was ready, whether she could do this. A lot of the things that I was teaching her she had not yet done before. And of course, with that comes some fear. Now, in terms of the strategy, she was posting around 3 to 5 times a week when I first met her, when she joined my program. And she didn't really have the clarity on what she was doing. She just knew she was meant to be posting content, so that's what she was doing. But there was no real clear strategy in terms of why she was doing that and where she wanted her audience to truly go. Okay, so she didn't know how to best leverage that content. She was showing up though, which is really, really important, but just without really knowing how to master what it was she was doing. She was sort of just dabbling and doing what she saw other people doing online because she just didn't know any better. In terms of running events, which is something that I really teach, she hadn't yet run one. So when we first started working together only a few months ago, here is what we shifted. Firstly, in regards to her mindset is so important when it comes to stepping into that next level version of yourself and showing up as more of a CEO and leader in your field, really owning yourself fully. It's so important when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, and when it comes to growth. So we started there, and I supported her to really trust herself and trust this process. And we did this through setting a really, really big and clear goal that meant something to her. We got ultra clear on why that goal was so important to her, both the pros and cons of not going after that goal, like what was it going to cost her to not do it and what was she going to gain from doing it, because that creates drive, and that's very important, to not rely on motivation, which is supposed to ebb and flow and go up and down, but instead have drive. It's extremely important. And so we did that. And we also got really clear on the execution of that. And then just completely surrender and detach. And you're able to do that very easily when you have clarity on the process. If you don't have clarity on what you're doing to grow, then you're going to struggle to surrender. You're going to struggle to detach and just trust like some people tell you to do. That's what you're meant to do. How do you actually do that? Well, you do that by really having crystal clear clarity. When you know what you're doing, it allows you to trust yourself. So I wasn't just telling her to set a goal and then just, completely detach from it and it will just come to you. No, we got a lot of clarity on the how, the why, and everything in between so that she was actually able to detach. And that energy is really felt and really important, which is why you'll hear a lot of people talk about, trusting and surrender. So we did that. I also taught her how to step into the next level version of herself, and we released any emotional blocks that came up for her in this process. So basically what that means is we got really clear, okay, this is your goal. This is your financial goal. Her goal was to have a $10,000 month and be able to do that consistently. We got clear on what does that $10,000 version of you actually look like? What does she sound like? How does she make decisions? How does she walk? How does she act? What does she focus on? Who does she surround herself with? We got clear on the details of that next level version of herself, because if you were that version of yourself, you would have the result. And so there's a gap between where she is and where she wants to be, and we need to close that gap. So we got really clear on who is that and what needs to shift to step into that version. And then any fears about, not being able to do that or not being good enough or anything like that, we released that, those blocks, because that's really, really key in regards to moving forwards. It's not always just about like doing more, having more, adding more to your plate, but actually releasing and removing things that don't serve you. Because we're all born as confident, happy, healthy babies that just have unstoppable belief in ourselves, and that changes over time through society, through our childhood and things like that. And so we actually are all born with it, and we just need to learn how to come back to that. So By doing all of that, that really allowed her to trust, because not only was she behaving as that next level version of herself, but she'd released any fears or blocks that were, stopping her from actually being able to do that. And she had crystal clear clarity on what she was moving towards and how she was going to be moving towards that. Okay. So here's the thing. If you don't know specifically who you want to be, it's difficult to go after it. And if you don't let go of the stories holding you back, it's near impossible to truly move forward. So this is really important that we had to do this. Now let's move on to the strategy part, which is what I know you all want to listen to. So this is where the true magic happens, right? So there are lots of ways you can grow your business. There are lots of different strategies. I'm not the type of coach that says this is the be all and only way, because I really believe we are all unique human beings that have different values, different stages of life, different stages of business. And therefore, our approach really needs to support that. So I teach my clients all of the ways that they can grow their business. My client, Emily, she chose 3 attraction strategies out of all of the ones that I list. I recommend having, between 1 and 3 that felt really good for her and that she could commit to, right? There's nothing worse than a coach telling you have to go do this, but it really feels so unaligned that you end up just self-sabotaging and not taking action in your business. So it has to feel good, but it also has to be strategic and be something that's actually going to help you, which is why I list various options and I tell her to pick a few. So she picked 3. Now, you don't have to do everything, but having some variety keeps things fun. So you can just do one thing, but it could just be incredibly boring to just do this one thing over and over again. And so by picking a few different things, it allows you to really express yourself and use your personality and have a few things on the go just to keep things fun for you. And of course, bring in more growth. So her strategies that she chose to commit to and go all in on using the specific strategies I then give within all those components is to create educational reels like Monday to Friday on Instagram, creating free lead magnets or free lead magnet lives, and then leveraging Facebook communities. So lead magnets, which could be a live or like a document she creates or something like really valuable she can give to her audience every single week, creating consistent reels, and also leveraging other Facebook communities. I taught her how to master those attraction strategies, so that she could be consistent and have fun along the way, because there's nothing worse than, not really understanding how or why to do the things that, you're meant to do. So that's what we did. And from there, we decided on where she wanted the audience she attracted to actually go. So I gave her a whole list of options because there's so many ways that you can go about this. She chose to have her own private Facebook community. So she was going to funnel through the people from the Instagram reels and from the other Facebook communities, and from the live lead magnets she was creating and getting them to go into her Facebook community. And there's a whole process around that. And then in terms of converting that audience, I gave her a few options to select from, and she chose to leverage sales calls or value calls and running online events, which then brings us to events. So she had no formula in place, as she had actually never run an event, which is totally fine. So I taught her my process using the online event formula, and we set up an 8-week launch to run a free 3-day challenge in her private Facebook community. Now, she ran these strategies throughout her entire launch to continuously attract and nurture people ready to run this online event. So she was, running a couple of calls every now and again when she got them, and she was just growing her audience via Instagram and Facebook, which was really, really awesome. And she ended up attracting 75 registrants using just these simple organic marketing strategies for her first event. 75 people is a lot of people for your first ever event, especially at that stage of business where you're generating roughly $2,000 per month. I was so proud of her. That's epic. From there, she delivered her event, and by the end of the launch, she had signed 5 clients at $3,500 Australian dollars, which is $17,500 Australian dollars. That is a solid effort, all in just 8 weeks of working together for her first time. So now I've been working with her for a few months since then, and she's now making on average around $12,000 per month, and I've only been working with her for just a few months. So to see that she went from 2K months to now consistent 10 to 12K months is really phenomenal. Now, I could have shared with you hundreds of different client examples. Some have made $10,000 in a day, 20K weeks, 30K months, 10K in the first 7 days of working with me, signing a client in the first 48 hours of being in my space. Like, I could have shared with you so many things, but I really wanted to share with you this story about Emily because it's a really realistic picture of what it can look like to go from A to B when you have an aligned marketing strategy in place and the right approach and the right support for you. Okay, so I just want you to know that this is what is possible when we come together and we map out a personalized plan that aligns with you, your stage of business, and your values. I hope this mini training has supported you today, and I can't wait to speak to you soon.